Good morning. We are the in-group. I'm Jen. This is Alyssa, Sharon, and Sarah, and we're here to present our argument for what we think crypto needs to do in light of these recalls. So we're going to start off with just giving you a simple problem identification. We're going to talk about our plans for quality assurance. We're going to talk about our plans for production, and then also we're going to do an overview of our communication strategy. So the initial problem that we all know is we had poor quality, which resulted in product recalls, and we figured that the main reasons for these were our low standards for our raw materials and also poor supervision in our Chinese manufacturing plants. Essentially, our main problem is quality control, and this led to a tarnished brand image, which ultimately leads to a loss in revenue. So in this particular situation, we had the necessity of issuing these recalls due to the facts that I stated, and we saw that one of the major problems was that they had no set plan for communicating the necessity of these recalls. And we think that's important because we want them to be able to know how to effectively and efficiently communicate what needs to be done, so that they can kind of work to salvage their brand image a little bit more and let as many people as possible know, all of their major stakeholders, exactly what they're doing to fix these problems. And then another problem that we saw was their lack of ownership and control with manufacturing.
One of the ways that we have decided that crypto should fix the problem of not having ownership of the quality of their products is to create a transparent and visible supply chain throughout the organization. So we want to place quality engineers at each of the suppliers, and really have that quality engineer be focused on monitoring their success. And we created a supplier scorecard for the quality engineer to measure this. So as you can see, it measures about 6 different aspects, and it weights each of these aspects differently in importance to their overall level of how they affect the company. If the supplier is in the green zone, they're totally safe and they're performing at a level that we see fit. Then in the yellow zone, they need to be worked with the quality engineer to really help develop that supplier. And if they're in the red zone, we need to look at them critically and decide if we're going to help them or if we need to drop them as a supplier. And one of our main focuses is really hoping that our suppliers will take this and implement it with their suppliers, because we really feel that as long as the raw materials that we're getting are 100% in good quality, then the whole program will be in good quality.
For the current situation, in the production and manufacturing situation, we want to move and shift production from the outsourced plants over to the U.S. and possibly even distribute them amongst the different plants that crypto owns. Now, while this is happening, we're going to put the outsourced plants on a short or however long probationary period to investigate the problem and just make sure everything is identified and addressed. Now from there, afterwards, we want to shift production from the US and other selected distribution places back over to China because we want to stay in China. Now in the long term, this requires that we provide stricter guidelines, and this can be encouraged through incentive programs. Now, communication is very key in the situation. Now what must happen is an immediate, honest, and effective response by the CEO or a corporate level officer. Now, from here, it's possible to set up and develop public relations, kind of little hub, possibly in the form of a website, and this can include the statement by the CEO, instructions on how to effectively go through the return process, and just several different other reverse marketing strategies. Now this will be made as user-friendly as possible so that it's easier for the target audience to be happy with and just completely go along with this reverse marketing.
To make this process as user-friendly as possible, we've created a flowchart. So it starts where, sorry, it's small font, but it starts where the program is identified, and then it goes down to where all C-level management across the nation, or across the country, across the world, excuse me, is all notified. And then from that step, we'll decide if it's a critical recall. If it is, Then we'll stop production, and then we'll go across 2 different lines of communication where we'll contact all our internal stakeholders and all our external stakeholders with how to go on with the recall. They pretty much go and meet up where there's a website to return your products, and then it also allows you to get information on how you'll get those products back. It's also very important that the company stay in good standing with the PR and with the press, and so press releases will be administered as more information comes about the recall.
Okay. And in terms of implementing this, in the case they had 1 recall, but also just in case they really do have more recalls in the future, there needs to be a manufacturing and distribution contingency plan, as well as the emergency communication response plan that we just spoke about. So with the manufacturing plan, if it's the Chinese factory, which was the issue in this case, temporarily shut down that plant and investigate the issue and shift production back to the U.S. or a closer plant like they plants in Malaysia also, just so you can fix the Chinese issue. And then once the issue is fixed, do short production runs and test each run just to make sure they're okay. And then once everything is okay, you can ship production back to Chinese facilities or the facility where the issue defects came from. And in terms of distribution plan, it's really important to have reverse logistics in place that are sustainable, especially with children's products. If they're contaminated or have some sort of chemical issue, you really need to make sure they're disposed of properly so kids aren't just keeping them, they're not just throwing them out. They need to be returned and recycled and disposed of. And also, the company can reduce risk by putting stricter standards and processes in place. And just to sum everything up, crypto needs to demand higher levels of quality, and that'll come from stricter supplier certification and evaluation, like the scorecard we presented, as well as the on-site quality engineers at each facility to really make sure everything is going as planned. When the boss is watching, people tend to work harder and better. If the boss is gone, like it was in this case, all 170 of them weren't even on site, things can kind of fall off the wayside. So keeping production in China is really important. The Chinese market is a very large market for the company, and it's always a growing market, so there's no need to totally shut down the Chinese plants. Just make sure they're in operationary period and bring all the production back there. And then a manufacturing contingency plan with sustainable reverse logistics, the communication plan, and that's always continuous review and improvement. Nothing's perfect in this world. If they have another recall, it's important for them to really have the processes and controls in place so they know what to do the next time it happens. That's it. Thank you.